Nahoo, 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 Nahoo.
Greetings. I welcome you to our program, Diplomatic Corner. Today we are in the Indian Embassy premises. We have with us a very distinguished diplomat. We have with us the Indian Ambassador, Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary, His Excellency Ambassador Shri Роберт Shetkintong, and it's a delight and a pleasure to have you in our program, sir. Welcome to our program.
Professor Brooks, I would like to welcome you and all your team to the Indian Embassy.
Thank you. Thank you. If I could say a few words on such a distinguished senior diplomat and statesman of India. He has been an ambassador not only in Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, he has been an ambassador since August 2020, I believe. He has also been an ambassador to Israel, to Italy, to Slovenia, and to Tanzania as well. And also, he has served as Undersecretary, Deputy Secretary in the distinguished Indian External Relations Ministry. Your Excellency, could you please tell us about your diplomatic career, your profession, and now, of course, since 2020, your stay in Ethiopia?
I joined the Indian Foreign Service in 2001. Since then, I have served, as you had mentioned, Professor Brooks, I have served in Israel, Italy, then went back to India. After that, I went to Slovenia, and then I was India's Deputy High Commissioner in Tanzania for 3.5 years. Then I went back to India, having served in our foreign ministry for 2 years. I have been appointed as India's ambassador to Ethiopia and permanent representative to the African Union. So I've been here since October 2020.
Wonderful. I feel you will feel at home. And by the way, for our audience, for the record, His Excellency the Ambassador is also the permanent delegate of the Republic of India to the African Union, yes, I would say.
As I had again mentioned, my children, I have two young children. They grew up in Tanzania, and now we have come back to Ethiopia. So East Africa is like our second home.
Wonderful. Welcome back to Africa. And I bet they speak a bit of Swahili or even more Swahili, your children, besides English and, you know.
Yeah, we know a little bit of Swahili, yes, Professor, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful. You know, as you know, Your Excellency, you know, India and Ethiopian relations go back thousands of years. Both people's cultures, civilizations are thousands of years old. Only the Indian subcontinent, the Indian Ocean, separates us from the Horn of Africa there. There are so many evidences that testify to the fact that there were really intense commerce, trade between the states of Ethiopia, even at the time of Aksum. The coins are found in India, as well as the Indian state as such. So it goes a long way. And for us Ethiopians also, we feel we follow with interest the independence of India and etc. Let's first start off with the bilateral relations between the two countries. If you could just update us on what are the features of this bilateral.
I think people are very right when they say that Ethiopia is the land of origins. We in India also say that India is an ancient civilization. So that actually indicates that we have been in touch for the last 2,000-3,000 years. And it was trade that brought the people of these two countries together. You would recall that about 400-500 years ago, actually there were Ethiopians who had gone to India. They had gone as soldiers. And over the years, some of them managed to rise up and actually become local chiefs. So we have buildings or forts constructed by Ethiopian generals in Gujarat and even in West Bengal also. Then about 150 years ago, we had about 150 Indian families mainly in Dire Dawa and then in Addis Ababa, who have made Ethiopia their home. Many of them have gone back or have left Ethiopia for other countries, but today about 60 families mainly from Gujarat have lived here, have made Ethiopia their home for the last 4 or 5 generations. If you would recall, during the imperial times, we had thousands, tens of thousands of Indian teachers, mostly from the Indian state of Kerala, who came here, who taught in secondary schools. And many of them taught even in the remote areas of Ethiopia. These teachers, all of them, or many of them, most of them have left. Some of them are still here. They have made Ethiopia their home. Indian professors and lecturers have joined them recently. So we have a substantial presence of Indian faculty in public universities in Ethiopia. In this, I think the most visible aspect of our bilateral relations is the business. Because in the last 15, 20 years, a number of business investors from India have made Ethiopia their home. So today, we have about 650 Indian companies who have been registered with the Ethiopian Investment Commission. And we estimate that these Indian factories give employment to about 72,000 Ethiopian nationals. So actually, it's a very substantial presence. In terms of bilateral trade, we are one of the top trading partners for Ethiopia. Last year, our bilateral trade basket stood at about $1.2, $1.3 billion. So actually, even in terms of business, in terms of trade, our relations are excellent. But that only gives us this hope that there is opportunity to expand our relations in terms of business and trade.
Very true, really. I appreciate your analysis. It is true. You have covered the education, yes. I remember as well, growing up in Ethiopia, so many Ethiopian students, they were educated by Indian nationals as teachers in high school, middle school, and the like, especially in public schools.
And these are Indian presence in Ethiopia in terms of education. Every year, the Indian government or foreign ministry provides 55 scholarships. These are undergraduate, postgraduate, or PhD. Besides that, every year we used to conduct 400 training programs, short-term training programs for Ethiopian nationals. Yes, during the last 2 years, because of the COVID pandemic, we have suspended the physical training programs. But now that situation has improved, we believe we will resume training programs in India. So this is again training program. In addition, the Indian Ministry of Education also provides scholarships. Also, the Indian universities on their own also provide scholarships. More than that, we have a number of Ethiopian students who are self-financing. So we estimate that Ethiopian students form one of the largest groups from Africa who are studying in India. So actually, education is a very important aspect of our relations.
You have gone ahead of me and answered my questions, which I really appreciate, because I was about to say, India is well known for its quality and standard of education, and we appreciate the help scholarship that Ethiopian young generation gets. It means a lot. It's changing life. It's shaping the minds of human beings, the young generation, getting the right degree and stuff and coming back and serving the nation. On top of that, if I may, Your Excellency, India has an affordable educational university system, and that has allowed now the growing, shall I say, lower middle class, upper middle class Ethiopian community or group of people to go there and get a high quality education.
What I also want to mention is that because we have been in contact for the last thousands of years, so we have similarities. For example, there is a similarity in rock engineering. When I say rock engineering, you have those famous rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. In terms of engineering, we find them similar to the South Indian single rock temple engineering. So we believe that it was trade that brought ideas together, you know. Your injera, our dosa are similar. Culture is similar. Ethiopia has a very diverse culture. India has very diverse culture. You also, because of the diversity, you are able to accept people. Indian people have the same hospitality. They accept Ethiopians like their sisters and brothers. So that is why when Ethiopian students go to India, they are already familiar with the society that they are. So it is very easy to mingle and be accepted. I travel around this country to various regions, and I was really pleasantly surprised to meet people who can speak Hindi. So when I ask them, they say that, some of them say that because by watching Hindi movies, right, they're able to speak
very
Hindi.
Very popular in Ethiopia.
I also met one student, or not a student, one gentleman. He was speaking Hindi very fluently. I asked him the reason. He said that 15 years ago, when he was studying in Symbiosis University in Pune, there were 2,500 Ethiopian students in Pune alone. So that is the kind of the contact we have in terms of education.
Exactly. And in terms of education, we have, Ethiopia has to grow. We have a vision and a mission, to make Ethiopia prosperous. And space science, engineering. I mean, India is right there, is one of the top countries in the world with space engineering, aeronautics, and everything. So we have a lot of knowledge transfer that we need from India. We need more and more professors to come here, lecture, staff exchange, faculty exchange. That I hope, and I'm sure, will be worked out under your good guidance as Ambassador of India to Ethiopia.
In the last 1 year, the Embassy of India in Addis Ababa has actually reached out to about 25 public universities in Ethiopia. We have visited Metu University, we have visited Gambela, we have visited Zigziga, Arba Mins. We have reached 25 universities, and still we are reaching out. That is because we want universities in Ethiopia to collaborate with centers of higher learning in India, because education empowers people. It will bring development. Yes.
Thank you. You have emphasized that. That is great. Rightfully, focused on trade, commerce, and investment in Ethiopia by Indian investors, entrepreneurs, and of course, I would like to connect this with the efforts of India, and that is in regard to in strengthening, bolstering trade, commerce, entrepreneurship, investment between India, this big nation of 1.2 billion people, with the 54 African sovereign nations. In that regard, India had started this India-Africa Forum Summit. The first one was held in 2008 in New Delhi, and then the second one was held in 2011, every 3 years. Where else? In Addis, I think, which makes us happy, of course, while Ethiopia was chosen to be the host of that at the center. And the third was held in 2015, once again in New Delhi, in a rotation. Could you please say a few words on the mission, the goal, the purpose of this Indo-African Summit Forum? Thank you.
Professor, when the leaders from Africa and India met in New Delhi for the third Africa Forum Summit, the leaders in one voice declared, they stated, we are partners in progress. We are partners. Our relations are based on equality, solidarity, friendship. We are partners. So that is why India has always assisted our sisters and brothers in improving their capacities. So we are providing so many scholarships so that students from Africa can benefit from Indian institutions in India. They have identified many areas. Some of the areas are like capacity building, health, economy, trade. So these are, the leaders have identified 7 or 8 areas, saying that this is where India and Africa should be partners. So we are looking at the 4th India-Africa Forum Summit, and we will continue to push with agendas that all of us agree and identify that this is beneficial to all of us. So, but as I said,
yes,
we are partners in progress.
Very good. And that's, I think, a good strategy, I believe, and a good roadmap of collaboration. We live in a globalized world. Africa needs India, India needs Africa, I think. There's a whole lot of, economic already interactions between countries of Africa and India. India is the largest software developer, and also so many things. And I believe it's a win-win situation on both sides of the Indian continent. I see. So when shall we expect to see the 4th Indian-African Forum Summit?
We are at present we are in talks. We are looking at maybe this year or maybe early next year or after that. So we are looking at, but talks are happening.
Very good.
Discussions are happening.
Very good. And the strategy, by the way, Your Excellency, I like the strategy. I believe the first and second summit was started with 14 key African states, and then more were added, and I believe by the third one, all 54 were invited. So that also is a strategy of opening up spaces for each and every an African country.
Because for us, every partner is important. Every African country is our brother, our sister. We are very important.
Now let's move to the foreign policy, of course, and let's start with the cornerstones of Indian foreign policy first.
I think, like generally speaking, the foreign policy of a country is to safeguard its national security, its identity, its interests. So naturally, India's foreign policy is based basically on this fundamental idea that it is for our national interests. Foreign policy also should be complementary to a country's economic development. It's very important. Professor, people say that we can choose friends, but we cannot choose our neighbors.
Absolutely.
So that is why for us, our neighborhood is very important. We want every country in the neighborhood to progress, what we call Sagar policy. It is security, and this is about the security parameters and development for all countries in our neighborhood. So that is why Southeast Asia is very key, plus the Indian Ocean. In addition, as we are living in a global world, we also believe that the UN Security Council should reflect the geopolitical reality. So it is our right, it is India's right, it is Africa's right to say that we should be presented in the UN Security Council.
That was my other question.
Yes. So because we represent 1/7 of the population. Africa also represents 1/7 of the global population. So our voice should be heard, and the UN security arrangements should represent all of us, if it has to be legitimate, if it has to be effective.
Wonderful. Definitely, we'll go back to a very quite interesting topic, and that's India's principle of Panchishel. It's very quite interesting. That's, I believe, the cornerstone of Indian foreign policy. International peace and security, promoting it, maintaining honorable and just relations between nations of the world, rich or poor, developing or developed, fostering respect for international law. India is right there since the beginning of the United Nations as well, encouraging settlement of disputes by arbitration and peaceful, and also the policy of non-alignment, which will come to that, if you'd care to say about that, and the policy of anti-colonialism and anti-racism, the role that India played, I believe, in 1964 at the United Nations. India was the first country to present a resolution in regard to racism and apartheid as well. So if you could just enlighten us on that.
On 9th May 1936, when foreign power or foreign armies were in Addis Ababa, India was then under colonial rule. Even during that time, people of India actually organized mass demonstrations to show their solidarity for the people of Ethiopia. So even when we were fighting for our independence, we were already showing our solidarity to the people in Africa. So once we got our independence, I think India has always taken this mission on itself that we will stand for people in the South. So that is why we have been very active. As a matter of principle, we have always stood for independence of countries in Asia and Africa. So Professor, you would know that even at the UN, India has been very active, has always taken, has always spoken for, has been always the voice for the people in Africa and in Asia. So.
Very, very true, very true. That is all in the beginning, you know. In the South Africa, for instance, you know, played a major role by India in galvanizing support regarding apartheid, to fight apartheid. And that the agenda, the issue becomes an agenda in the United Nations General Assembly and others.
And also please keep this in mind that the leader, Mahatma Gandhi, the leader of our struggle, actually got his inspirations from Africa. So,
in his stay in South Africa. That was also my other question about none other than the soul and the conscience of India. You know, the great Mahatma Gandhi, and who had lived in South Africa for 22 years, as you said.
And still that relationship continues. What has happened 60, 70 years ago still continues. The Indian Prime Minister has always been a voice for the people from Africa and Asia. So that relationship, that solidarity continues.
Yeah, absolutely. And this will take me to India's role in terms of peacekeeping and its activity or engagement in peacekeeping missions in the United Nations. More than 100,000, I believe, Indian blue helmet troops served across the world.
I think Ethiopia and India are one of the largest contributors of peacekeepers in terms of numbers. Also, please let us keep this in mind that lots of our soldiers have given up their precious lives, for international peace. So it is not only India, it is Ethiopia also and India also that we have really contributed towards global peace. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ethiopia is number one actually in Africa, as late as I think lately as 1 or 2 years ago. Statistics might change here and there, of course, but Ethiopia is always the top 3, number 1 as well. That shows the commitment of Ethiopia to maintenance of peace and stability in the world, in the African continent as well. And this will take us to India here again. The principles, India has its own way, shall we say? Always, especially. At the end of the Second World War, there were 2 literally big camps, the free world or the West European world led by America, and then the former USSR and China in the other group. And India, Nahoo, another great son and statesman of India, a great personality, a great mind. Under his tutelage or under his leadership also, India was involved later on in non-aligned movement, and Tito and him and others in the Indonesia Bandung Conference 1955 and others. So India had played a significant role in the non-aligned movement. Would it be correct if we say that India is always sort of, carving out or trying its own alternative way, contra to the other 2 bipolar world? If you could comment on that.
I think what India is conveying is that as a sovereign country, you can decide your own destiny. I think whether it be non-alignment or whether it be any other policy that India pursues is always based on sovereignty of our country and our independence. We should on our own decide our destiny.
Very true. Very true.
And we have always led the countries, especially from, from the south, from the developing south, that we should be in a position to have our own independent foreign policies, and we will also respect that.
Yeah. And also work with others
Yes.
who have similar views. And hence, non-aligned movement, G77, India playing a prominent role always. Great. Now shall we come to one individual, prominent individual now, the great Mahatma Gandhi, 22 years, in Africa, of course, from 1893 to 1915. He practiced law, he lived there, he saw social problems, he saw injustices happening, taking place. He was committed to social justice. And then he came back to India in 1915. And of course, the rest is history. He became, the conscience of India here again, plus he was at the forefront of fighting for justice, emancipation, and independence of India. And he led India to independence in August 1947, of course. Can you say something about his life?
I think for me, a sentence that he had, of course, he has he has taught us many things, but there is one line that I always remember about him. He says that, not in the same way, but just to paraphrase, he says that the success of a country or the success of a nation is to wipe out the tear of the common man. I think what he meant was that, we should not differentiate between people. The poorest man should have the same opportunity, should be given the same opportunity so that he can improve his life. And as a country, we should minimize his burden or his suffering. So wiping out the tear of every person, I think, is the goal of every country.
So, Your Excellency, talking about Mahatma Gandhi, a great soul and conscience of India, and those who seek justice, social justice in the world, actually, humanity, I would say. He lived for humanity, not only India. He's a gift to all people who seek justice. He is a number of political movements and statesmen have followed his example in the fight for emancipation and for struggle for independence. And one of them is, of course, Nelson Mandela, the principle of peaceful, struggle. Another is even Martin Luther King in America, among African Americans. For that, he's well known of. If you could share with us, your ideas about the life and the philosophy in a very brief way. I know one could talk for books and write books about it, about Mahatma Gandhi.
I think Mahatma Gandhi affects the life of everyone in every way. For example, let us say he was already talking about unity in diversity. He knows that India as a civilization is a very diverse country like Ethiopia. All religions have their presence in India. Every 50, 60 kilometers that you travel in India, there are different people who speak different dialects, who have different food habits. We have about 20 official languages. We have 1,000 dialects. All religions have presence. So he was already talking about unity in diversity then. He was already telling the Indian people that we should coexist happily, we should live in harmony. In the immediate past, the Prime Minister of India has